Hey everyone, how you doing? I'm Safdar Howard. I'm in Wellington, New Zealand, and let's turn that off. Hey, it is a cold, grey day, so let's kick off by doing our usual thing. What are you doing? Where are you, and what is the weather doing outside right now for you? So yeah, I'm in Wellington, New Zealand. It is the morning of the 30th of December. We've only got 2 days left of the year. We have just done the last weekend of 2024. Can you believe that? It feels like it's gone really, really fast. I don't know about you. I'm using a MacBook Air M3, and I'm using a DJI Mic 2 that's connected to the receiver that's going into the MacBook Air, just so you know the gear that I'm using to live stream today. And the software platform I'm using is EVMux. So yeah, let me know what you're doing, where you are. Like I say, I'm in Wellington. It was actually quite a nice weekend in the end. It was really, really cold the days leading up to the weekend. Friday night was pretty cold. Saturday morning, still quite a big southerly. I mean, Friday afternoon, it was blowing so hard. I don't know if you saw my community post, but I almost got blown off my feet several times just walking around the coast, which is crazy. Um, just let me know if you are here. Just let me know if you can hear the audio and everything. Okay, it looks like it's looking okay from the micy thingy that I can see. It's looking all right. The audio is choosing the right thing. Yeah. So yeah, let's just let me know if you can hear and see me okay. All right, so today we're going to be talking about a review of 2024. I can't believe it's gone so fast for me. I don't know about you guys, but let's talk about the tech in 2024. And I'm really keen to get your nominations as well. So yeah, let me know what you think for you have been the best things this year. So let's start that process rolling. Let's get the nominations. I've got some myself that I could quite happily tell you about and talk about. But what we're going to be thinking about is whether these are kind of overrated, or whether you think that they are just right. So yeah, let me know what you think about what 2024 has looked like in terms of tech for you. Now that could be small cameras, or it can be all kinds of different things that you want to talk about in terms of tech or platforms. Like, do you think YouTube's been any good this year? You know, they've introduced things like 3-minute shorts, which is really interesting. I'm not really sure why or who would, but yeah, let's just have a chat about that. It seems to be glitching a little bit, but we'll just carry on for a little while. So let's see who's around. Like I say, I'm in Wellington. Please drop me a comment and I will bring your comment up on screen as well. That's what we usually do here. I'm going to go for about an hour this morning, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. Let's see how we go. All right, let's talk about some tech that's been going on this year. Let's see, where's my little list? Okay, let's talk about the Apple Vision Pro. I don't know if anybody's used one of those. I haven't. I've just seen people walking around with them every now and again. Now that's for lots of different reasons to why I probably haven't seen them. Firstly, I live in New Zealand, and I don't even think that the Apple Vision Pro is out in New Zealand yet. So to be honest, the only places I've actually seen it have been in Japan when I've been there, and I'm not even sure it's available there, but I've seen people with them. So people who have traveled over to the States and got one and taken one back. But in China as well, when I was in Shanghai, I definitely saw people with Apple Vision Pros there. And I've only traveled through it, oh, excuse me, airports in the States this year. I haven't actually in the States this year, so I've not seen that. Uh, so let me just turn this reactions thingy off. Yeah. So that's been quite interesting to me, how little that has taken off this year. I just don't think it's taken off at all. I don't think anybody was expecting it to take off, but I think people have just been like really underwhelmed. And it's been really interesting to me as to how the conversation has moved on entirely into more augmented reality glasses. You know, those glasses you may have seen on my channel. I've got some glasses, some smart glasses that are integrated with ChatGPT, but they are audio only. And I think that the conversation has moved on to what I think Apple would like to do in maybe 2 or 3 generations of the Apple Vision Pro. I think people are like, no, I don't want that. If I wanted to get an Apple Vision Pro like device, a VR headset, then I will just get a let's just turn this off. This is really annoying me. Um, yeah, I will just get a normal VR headset, like a Meta Quest or something like that. Why would I shell out all this money to get what I think is an overpriced product, which people aren't really investing in terms of developers? They're not making new stuff for the Apple Vision Pro, or at least very few of them are. So I think that the Apple Vision Pro has been hugely overrated this year. Even with people having expectations of it not doing particularly well, I think it's just really, really underperformed. Really curious to hear your ideas about what you think. Um, so one of the things, though, I think has on the partner side of that is 360 VR video. Now, I actually think, counter to my ideas of how the Apple Vision Pro has been completely overrated, I actually think 360 VR video is currently underrated. I actually think that we are on the verge of seeing quite a big uptick in 360 VR videos being uploaded and viewed on platforms like YouTube, even when people don't have VR headsets on. Now, I'll tell you why I think that that's happening already and why I think it's going to happen in the future as well. I think what we're seeing is let me just see if I can get this a bit bigger. Here we go. I think what we're seeing is there. That's better. I think what we're seeing is YouTube on TV really starting to come into its own now. Now, what I mean by this is I think more and more people are consuming and watching YouTube on TV. And I've seen this in my own figures as well. Like in the last like 3 months, the number of people who are watching TV for YouTube on my channel has gone up from 5% to 10%. Now, that's relatively small still in terms of numbers, but that's a doubling in 3 months of people watching YouTube, my YouTube videos on TV. And most people reckon that that's a trend that's going to continue. There's going to be more and more people sitting down and watching long form YouTube TV because they want to be entertained. Also have what people call decision fatigue. They don't want to be sat there scrolling or choosing what it is that they want to watch. They just want to watch the feed that's being served to them passively. So that means watching TV on the couch, maybe even with a second device in their hands. Or maybe whilst they're doing something else in the background, maybe they've got TV on the kitchen and they're cooking and they're not necessarily watching a cooking channel, but they want some kind of like entertainment channel on in the background. And I think that 360 VR videos where people can scroll around, even on their Apple TV remote, you can have a look around. I think that this is going to be getting bigger. People perhaps can't afford they want to do research on the travel on places that they want to go to. I know certainly people have been encouraging me to put up more stuff around Wellington because although Wellington is kind of like a second, well, I don't know if it's second tier, but it's the capital, but people kind of like tend to pass through Wellington on their way to other places. But there's lots and lots of things to do here. It's a very pretty place. You'll have seen in some of the videos that I film down on the south coast here. in New Zealand is that it's actually a wonderful place, and people want and are interested in looking around these places, but also places off the beaten track as well. People are really interested in seeing these places around the world in more detail, but more authentically as well. So that's the great thing about 360 VR videos, is that you can see these things really authentically by just kind of like watching them and immersing yourself in them. And you don't even have to have a VR headset to do that. And I think a lot of people kind of like a bit reluctant about VR headsets. They find them uncomfortable, they find them kind of dorky. And I think that that's why people are interested in the AR headsets, the glasses, which don't completely close you off like a VR headset will. And very few people want to pay for an Apple Vision Pro. Just to bring one of our regular guests on screen here for a second, iAngel. Hi, really nice to see you. Thanks for joining us this morning. We are talking about underrated and overrated for 2024. So let me know your nominations. Drop me in the comments right now. What is it that you think has been overrated, underrated, or just right in 2024? So that's my first one. I think the Apple Vision Pro is overrated. And I think alongside that, I actually think 360 VR video is underrated, because I think more and more people are watching that on TV screens, and YouTube on TV is a growing audience and is continuing to grow through the end of 2024 and into 2025. So yeah, that's where we're at the moment. So next up on my list, let's have a look. Let's talk about AI. I think AI. I'm curious to hear what you think, actually, before we go in any further. Please drop me a note in the comments. Let me know who you are, where you're from, what the weather's doing outside. I'm in Wellington, New Zealand. iAngel, I know, is in Switzerland. iAngel, what's the weather doing for you at the moment? It's the evening time over there, I guess. It is morning over here. It's a grey morning here. We've had a couple of like nice days. But it's definitely going to be grey here into the new year, possibly wet here on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So yeah, that's where we're at the moment. I've just got some coffee on the go here as well. So yeah, drop me a note. Let me know what you where you're from, but also what's your overrated, underrated, and just right technology for 2024. It is 8:15 p.m. in Switzerland. Does Switzerland just have one time zone? I'm not sure. Let me know. I'm curious. I think it's just one time zone. I think it's too small a country. I don't think it's that wide a country in order to have two time zones. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure. Okay. I'm drinking black coffee as well. So yeah, get yourself a drink. Let's just diverge onto coffee for a second. I have never been a black coffee drinker. I've recently started drinking it, and I love it. I just don't know what's taken me so long to get into it. I'm drinking this kind of like medium roast holiday blend, which is kind of like a bit spicy, kind of like, I think it said sticky toffee pudding and ginger. And it's actually really, really nice. It's really, really delicious. And I just wonder why it's taken me so long to get into that, with just like a third of a spoon of brown sugar, just to kind of like balance off the bitterness as well. And I really, really like it. I'm getting through sort of like 3 cups a day of that, which is like delicious. I know that's like not a huge amount, but like I need to kind of like watch that. I get a bit jittery if I have too much. It's too warm for December. Should get colder in January. Yeah, because you got to be thinking about the skiing, right? You got to be getting on those slopes and doing stuff. this is my wife watching in the other room, and she's she's owning dibs on the black coffee stuff. Yeah, definitely. She told me, she's right. She is known as the Oracle to her friends, and she is known as the Oracle for a reason. She is very, very good at this kind of stuff. And yes, we are looking at just one time zone. Thank you for confirming that for me. Yeah, just one time zone in New Zealand as well. It's a long, skinny country. and it's very different to Australia. We are not part of Australia. We have a different time zone. And just drop me in the comments, how long do you think it takes to fly from Wellington to the nearest point in Australia? Which is probably like Sydney. Well, direct flight anyway, Sydney or Melbourne. Let me know what you think, how long it takes, because I know what most people think who haven't been here. So yeah, if you haven't been to New Zealand or Australia, how long do you think it takes to get from one country to the other? Let me know in the comments. That will be quite interesting to know. All right, where were we? Let us get back here. Yeah, drop me a comment in the and let me know what your nominations are for best and worst, overrated, underrated in 2024. So yeah, let's talk about AI because I have a slightly controversial opinion about AI. I think that it is hugely, hugely overrated at the moment. And that's not to say I don't use it. I use it. Yeah, I skill myself up on what it is that I can and can't do. I'm okay at prompting generative AI, LLM models, large language models. I just think that it's been hyped up beyond belief. And I do think that we're going to come up against some really interesting, hard constraints in 2025. I think that there's a lot of startups, there's a lot of companies who are in my space, and they are running out of money. And I think that the big established players like Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, they are running into hard barriers in terms of how much is it going to cost to take the next step? And what is even the next step going to do? Okay, there's a lot of money and resource that's being put into video at the moment. You may have noticed there's a few apps that have come out, or models or interfaces where you can put in a prompt and it'll come out with a video for you. Woohoo, great. But I just don't think you're going to be still able to beat the human experience. I think there is a bit of that uncanny valley feeling still around a lot of those videos. And yeah, theoretically, they may, so you can't differentiate. But I don't necessarily even think that that's something that I'm gonna want to do a lot of. Okay, so that's one thing. It's like, yeah, you can do all this stuff, but is it really any good? Is it really compelling to watch? Sure, it saves time, but I don't know if people will continue to engage with it because also it's all going to look really the same. It's just going to become this kind of like slop of AI that's already flooded the internet in terms of written stuff, in terms of blogs. You know, it's really hard to differentiate what's true and what's not true. And if you think that AI models are being trained on what's on publicly available on the internet and sometimes not publicly available or they don't have permission for, the more of that stuff that's out there that's slop, the more of that stuff that's going to be regenerated as slop and inaccurate and uncompelling. So I do think that we've got ourselves into a bit of a bind with AI and how it's being trained, what it's being used for, and how it's proliferated. It's just everywhere on the internet. So I do think it's overrated. I do possibly even not good for us in terms of like just using it for everything. I use mine very strategically. Let's say, for example, I'm out walking and I record like a really long voice note, rambling voice note, because I don't necessarily want to edit myself or think too much about what it is I'm saying. I can do that, but I'm just kind of like freestyling, like whilst I'm like walking. When I come home, I can feed that voice note and ask the AI app that I use called Audio Note to summarize that audio note in several different ways. So then I can just use that note either as kind of like the basis of a blog post or just for myself, like just bullet point, whatever it is that I've just been splurging for the last 15 minutes whilst I've been walking, and just tell me what I said in 10 bullet points. 5 bullet points, right? That's really useful for me. But it's my own internal process and how I use that AI tool, right? And I think that that's really good. I think that that's underrated, actually. I think there's a lot of people who are kind of like using AI and thinking directly as to how is it that I'm going to get some kind of like public facing product? How am I going to get a video out of this? How am I going to get a voiceover out of this that I can have a faceless video for? How am I going to design a thumbnail and then just put it out into AI and just have it do it for me? So yeah, there's all this public facing AI stuff, which I think is overrated. I think that the internal process stuff for AI use is just right, or maybe even a little bit underrated right now. I don't think that we think about that enough. It feels too hard, or it feels like I need to have an output that I can use in my product for AI to be useful. So there's that. What I think is overrated also, and possibly downright dangerous, is, and Microsoft aren't going to thank me for this, is PCs with AI embedded in them such that it's actually really hard to switch them off. So yeah, all the recent kind of generation of Microsoft stuff, sure, it could be useful, but I liken it to having a smart TV. I don't have a smart TV. I think smart TVs are too vulnerable to infection by malware. And it's really part of the whole Internet of Things, right? It's actually really hard to get into or under the hood of a smart TV to sort that out or switch it off or change the settings. I would much rather have, if I had one at Google Chrome, we have an Apple TV, but it's much easier for you to kind of manage that as a separate device or as a separate set of processes away from the main device on which you're viewing something. And I think the same about PCs and computers as well. I would much rather have the AI part of that switch on and offable. I don't want this thing just kind of like in the background, scraping all of my data, scraping all of my keystrokes, everything that I do, sending it to a massive server and then learning about me and my behavior and then aggregating that with other people, unless I say it can. And I suspect that there's a lot of that kind of like stuff going on at the moment, which people don't really have a lot of control over, which is why I think it is overrated and possibly even a little bit dangerous. All right, let's get back into cameras. Let's see. I think one of the best cameras that's come out this year. Oh, there's a couple here that we'll talk about. One of them's had a bit of a patchy launch, so shall we say, and the other one has been just a really great iteration on what's been a fantastic series of cameras. Mm. Uh, and we'll talk about the other one as well. Yeah, there's three here, and they're all Insta360 cameras. So here's my view on these cameras this year. I think the Insta360 X4 has been great. I actually think it's still underrated as a camera. I think that the reason why it's underrated as a camera is that people are attracted to the idea of the 360 camera because of the great promo videos, the great videos that they see that have been created with an Insta360 X4. And they buy it and they struggle a little bit in terms of like the editing. And they have a ton of footage because they've been putting off the editing, putting off the editing, putting off the editing. They just carried on filming, and then now they're overwhelmed. They've got all this footage that they need to do something with, and they feel like I don't know how to do this, and I'm watching all the YouTube videos and I still can't figure out how to do it. Having said that, I still think it's a fantastic device. I bought the X1 on the back of watching a review by Peter McKinnon. I was kind of vaguely aware of 360 cameras, but the Insta360 One X was the first usable Insta360 camera as far as I could figure. And I didn't really have a lot of money at that time, and I was really just beginning my YouTube journey. But I thought, hey, I'm going to invest in this camera because I actually think it's going to be really interesting. Of course, I smashed it within about I think about 2 months of having it. I smashed one lens because I fell on a rock when I was clambering around trying to get footage. And then I had to get that replaced. But then I got the X2, the X3, the X4, and Insta360 sent me them actually from the X3 onwards. So yeah, I think it's an incredibly great camera. It can be a little bit of hard work. and it's not suitable all the time. Like I say, it's not my everyday camera. But if I'm leaving the house for more than a day or two, it inevitably makes its way into my camera bag. I do think it's still an underrated camera, even though it's attracting a lot of people to it. All right, so that's the X4. Let's talk about the Go 3S. I love the Go 3S. I love all the Go series of cameras. I think that for a few people, I think perhaps it's a little bit overrated, and for most people, it's probably just right. Now, the reason why I say it's overrated is that I think that there has been a little bit of misunderstanding around the free frame mode of the Go 3S, in that the way it behaves is quite different to the Go 2 and the Go 3 and the Go as well. And I think for those people who had bought all of those three cameras and expected the Go 3S to behave in the same way, in that the horizontal and the vertical orientation in free frame mode actually behave quite differently in terms of how punched in the image is. And I think that that was a big disappointment for many people once they found that out. And for many people, they didn't find out until they'd actually bought it, which is why I kind of put out a video saying, hey, if you're thinking about the Go 3 or the Go 3S, then watch this video and watch how differently they behave in free frame mode. And that actually, what I want to do is to share good information with you. Excuse me. Oh, that's not good. What I want to actually do is to share good information with you, even if it means I lose, potential affiliate sales. It's more important to me that I give you good information. And if it means that you decide, hey, I've already got a Go 3 and now I've watched your video, I'm not going to buy the Go 3S. I'm quite happy with 2.7K and carrying on filming like this, or 1440p in free frame mode rather than 2.7K because I prefer this kind of a look. Then that's success for me. I want to make sure that I'm putting out information that is good for me and my audience, and stuff that I've learned. I want to share that knowledge, no matter what the consequences in terms of like my own kind of like sales. That for me is less important. I will come back to that in terms of like what I want to do in 2025. But yeah, the Go 3S, I think it's a great camera. I don't think it's suitable for everyone. So I think for some people, I think it's just about right on the scale of things, although some people weren't kind of perhaps happy with how that camera was promoted maybe. Let's come to the Ace Pro 2, which I think is a fantastic camera. Really, really good. It's a little bit on the heavy side compared to, say, the DJI Action 5 Pro. But what it delivers for that extra weight, I think is incredible. I think I love the flip screen myself. I actually love how it's a day-night camera as well, because I'm not so much of a night owl these days, but I used to be. And I still am out in the evenings, and I still go out into like really interesting places like Tokyo or London, and there's lots of bright lights, and I want to be able to capture these if I'm out and about with my camera. And the Ace Pro 2 does an amazing job of it. I think it's really good. I think it's rated just about right. I think lots of people recognize how great a camera this is. However, Insta360 did seem to have a bit of a problem at launch in that they didn't have enough stock. And there has been a massive gap, which has only, I think, just recently in the last week or two, been fixed by Insta360, and lots of people are now starting to get their Ace Pro 2 in the post through the courier service into their hot little hands in order to be able to use it and see just how great a camera it is. Now, I have a best settings video out for it, but I've actually held off my review video because I thought I don't want it to just kind of like get buried. Because nobody's watching it, because nobody's actually got one, or they've put it off their list because they're thinking, well, I'm not even going to think about this before Insta360 sort their stocking problems out. So now they've done that, you can expect a video from me, a video review from me going through the great points and testing out various different features so that you can see them and hear them um, early in the, well, probably around the middle of January. I think that's what I'm aiming for. So yeah, that's what I think I'm going to do, and that's why I haven't actually done a review of the Ace Pro 2 yet, because it became very clear to me early on that people were just not getting them. Um, and yeah, the stock was a problem. So yeah. Oh, let me just go into the comments. There's a few that have shown up here. Angel, here we go. AI and photo and video is just putting too much fake stuff online, and people believe too much of the fake stuff. Yeah, and unfortunately, then AI believes the fake stuff because it's coming across it on the internet and it's being shared a lot. So it thinks that for some reason it must be authentic and real. So yeah, that's been a problem. Absolutely. In terms of the Go 3S, yes, at the beginning it was confusing, but once you know it, you adjust. Yeah, and certainly that's what I've done. I definitely take the Go 3S out with me because I value the 4K video, and I don't really shoot in free frame. So it didn't really affect me, which is another reason why I kind of didn't put the video out to start off with. But once I became aware of the issue with other users who were like saying, "Hey, what's happened here?" I looked more deeply into it, and then I could see why this could be a problem for people. But yeah, you do adjust. But I can see for many people who really value that extreme wide angle in a vertical orientation, like if you've got an FPV drone, or maybe that's the way you wear it on a chest mount and that's what works for you if you're like mountain biking or something like that, I could see why that would be a deal breaker for a lot of people. Oh, I didn't realize you were still waiting for your Ace Pro 2. Have you heard anything from Insta360? Or have you ordered it with them? Or did you order it from some other company? And have you heard anything more about when that's going to be with you? Because I have seen quite a few people starting to say, "Hey, I've got it. It's coming. It's being delivered on January 3rd, January 5th, or something like that." So that's why I'm kind of like leaving it just still a little bit longer. I'll have to go out and reshoot all the footage that I did as well, because yeah, it's just I want something fresh. So yeah, it's a bit of but it was a bit of a pain for me. The fact that they had all these like kind of like stock problems. Yeah. All right. Let's see. The next one, oh yeah, yeah. So we talked about the Ace Pro 2. We talked about the Insta360 X4. We've talked about the Go 3S. The next one I want to talk about is the DJI Mic 2, which is what I'm using today as my audio. And I actually think that the hype on this has been just right, actually. Because I do think it's a great mic. I do think it's a very versatile mic. Yeah, there are other mics that are better out there, but for this price point and the way that you can kind of like scale the system up and down, you don't have to get the two transmitter, one receiver in the hard charging case. That will cost you $100 US more than just getting a single receiver, single transmitter in this like little soft case, which works really, really, really well as a little carrying case. But I think the real thing about this is it's got Bluetooth audio, which can hook up to your Insta360 X4 or your iPhone for that really kind of like low footprint extra audio option. But also how it integrates in with the DJI Osmo audio system. Now, we know that it integrates, you'll have seen my videos on how it integrates with the Action 5. We know how it integrates with the Pocket 3. It also integrates with the DJI Neo drone. Now, I'm going to be testing this out through the phone. It integrates through the phone. I'm going to be testing this out, but it's actually just been really windy. So it's not been easy to fly the drone at all. So I'm going to do that next week, even if it ends up being like in a really sheltered place or even inside, because I just want to show you and give you an idea so you can hear what the audio sounds like using the DJI Mic Mini in different scenarios, either with a Bluetooth connection to the iPhone or a receiver connection to the iPhone. Yeah, You wouldn't really be able to do it with a remote control unless it had that one with the screen built in. I don't have that one. But yeah, that's an option as well. You could do that too. So yeah, I actually think the DJI Mic Mini is just right. I think it's a really, really good option. I think DJI have been very smart about building their own Osmo audio system, which bypasses a lot of these receivers, and the mic connects directly to them. And here's the thing that I haven't tested yet, but I have read about. I'm not sure many people are aware of, but it is also compatible, I think, with the Osmo audio system built into their gimbal. Now, what one is that? Is it the Osmo 6? I can't remember the gimbal, the latest one anyway. So yeah, I do have that, and I might give that a try, and I might report that back to you. We'll see what we do with that. So yeah, that I think has been a really good. The battery life is incredible, and it's really, really, really small. It's really, really tiny. iAngel, let's go. Here we are. You didn't order it with Insta360. Taxes for import in Switzerland are too high. Yeah, same here. Waiting for the shop I usually get my cameras from to have a delivery date. Oh, okay, so then they're waiting for their own kind of batch to get from wherever their wholesaler or supplier is from. Yeah, fair enough. Can you fly the DJI Neo in no drone flying zones at low heights? It depends. And it really depends upon your local laws. I know someone who bought theirs. They live in Tahoe in the US. They live at height, and they found it so difficult to use that they had to return it, no matter what height they used it at. Here in New Zealand, you can use it in no drone flying zones, but there's something called, what's it called? A sheltered flight or something like that. So I actually live within a zone of no flying. So I actually have to, that's why all my drone videos are in that kind of like rocky beach area, which is just outside the no fly area. Now you can do a sheltered, I really can't remember the phrasing for it. A sheltered flight where you have something that is tall and solid between you and the airport. Um, if you are inside a particular area or zone within an airport radius, you can do those. Or you can call the air traffic control center and say, "Hey, I'm planning on doing this flight. Is this okay right now?" And apparently, I haven't tried it yet, but apparently they're really good at getting back in contact with you and saying whether you can or can't do it. But again, it is a little bit, you can't just kind of like just rock up and just let it go and do it. The drone itself on the app will tell you that this is at your own risk. So I haven't actually tried flying it in a place where it says, yeah, you definitely can't fly it. So yeah, I think that DJI's geofencing is very regional and geographic specific. And so I think you will get messages, but that I wouldn't rely on. But I think that you do get messages from DJI. So I would definitely check out the local laws and jurisdictions as to kind of like what is and what isn't allowed. Definitely, 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 definitely. All right, we've been going about 40 minutes. I am Saab Johal. This is Pocket Cams. Let me know. We've got a few people online now. Who are you? And where are you watching from? What are you drinking? And what's the weather doing right now? I'm drinking black coffee from Coffee Supreme. There's a free advert there. It's I think it's actually an Australian company, but also operates in New Zealand. And I'm drinking their holiday blend beans ground up nicely for a plunger filter with a little touch of brown sugar just to offset the bitterness. It's very, very nice. Even though this is a thermal mug and it's starting to kind of like cool down a little bit, it's still really, really good. And it's interesting, coffee, particularly I think black coffee, because milky coffee, it's not so great when it's kind of like getting cold, but I think the flavor profile of a black coffee changes quite a lot as you drink it and as it cools down a bit. And then even like reheat it a little bit sometimes if it has been sat in my mug for a while, just like 10 seconds, just to kind of like re-energize it again. But not this one because it's got kind of like a metal rim and inside. That I don't think is a good idea to put in a microwave. Don't try it if you have tried if you haven't tried it. Back into review of 2024. Angel, do you have any ideas? What's been kind of top of mind for you? What's been good? What's been kind of like not so good this year in terms of the tech that you've used or come across? I will talk about 2025 from now. Let's talk about one tech thing that I have talked about on my channel. The video has been watched a couple of thousand times now. I am thinking about the DJI rumored 360 camera, 360 Osmo, or whatever it is that they end up calling it. I do think this is going to be really interesting, particularly because they have this Osmo audio system. There really isn't much competition, I think, at the moment. Yes, there is the KuCam series. KuCam have just put out a new one, but there's nothing that kind of can touch Insta360 in terms of the hardware, but also the software offering as well. The Insta360 app is just phenomenal these days. They've spent so much time and effort into developing this into such a great product. If anything, I would say it's probably a little bit on the overwhelming side now. And I do think that they're trying to address that with having the AI tools, being able to provide you with like bite-sized kind of like outputs and edits now, rather than just trying to do the whole thing. You can do the whole thing, but rather than just trying to do that all the time, I think it can feel quite intimidating for people when they open the Insta360 app if they're trying to do anything other than basic sharing. So yeah, it's an interesting dilemma, I think, that Insta360 are kind of like got themselves into, but it's a good one. So yeah, DJI entering this market, I think, can only be good. Can only be good in terms of offering choice, offering a bit of a spur to innovation as well. Insta360 might respond with whatever DJI bring out, and up their game for the X. It's interesting because I think that the 360 from DJI will have to come out before the X5 if they are going to steal a march or get people to upgrade or try a different camera before the X5 comes out. Otherwise, they'll be running directly competing with a 5th generation product with their 1st generation. And so I guess that's going to be the hardcore DJI fans who are going to be buying that first out. So I'd be interested to see where they price it to. I think it's going to be an interesting year in terms of the 360 camera market, the consumer market. You really do not get the coffee hype. You're more of a tea drinker, Angel. Let me know what it is you're drinking. You got the Osmo Pocket 3, but you sold it because it was just not your camera. You know, that's interesting because it has like a load of hype, I think. And I think, to be honest, I think it's probably properly rated. I have used one and it is really good, but the gimbal can be quite hard to control. I know that the person who owns it found that he could not get it to stop following people. He wanted just kind of like a fixed shot of just kind of like keeping and just shooting that frame. But he said every time somebody walked into the frame, it just followed them, and he couldn't get them. And I had a quick look at the settings, and I couldn't find a way to turn that off, which is odd to me. I thought that would be front and center. Sometimes you just want to have a fixed shot. But yeah, it didn't suit him. He's still using it lots. That's his kind of like second camera. He's a photographer for a living. So he still uses this a lot for like time lapses and B-roll if he's trying to put a video together. But yeah, he kind of like, there are some quirks about it. So yeah, I can see why that might be. Definitely. You like DJI for the mics and the drones, do not like DJI app for the camera. Yeah, the Mimo app is kind of like becoming this kind of like everything app, isn't it? It's kind of like quite strange. They have the DJI Fly app, which I think is actually really, really good. In my experience with the DJI Mini 2, but then more recently with the DJI Neo. Has anyone here, actually, there's a few people online, has anyone here got an Hover Air drone? Because I see loads of people on Facebook all the time with Hover Air drones. I'm just curious if you've got one, have you used it? Did you like it? I'm just really interested and curious about that. Um, yeah. I'm just gonna like stick this up quietly down here on the bottom. I do have a super chat goal up at the moment. If you do feel that way inclined, hit that super chat button, and that would be really, really cool. And I'd really, really appreciate that. Yeah. So yeah, there's. Let's get back to here for a second, and yeah. Okay, Angel, like, because I think my daughter would do this, but are you into iced tea even in winter? Because I think my oldest daughter would definitely still be into iced tea even in winter, now that she's kind of old enough to be drinking that. Yeah, so yeah, I'm curious. Even in winter, iced tea, and what flavor? What flavor? Okay. I think I like Insta360 too much, especially the free frame option. Do not like to have to take the videos twice. Yeah, there is that, right? It's like as I start rethinking my vertical strategy, which I'll come on to in a little while, I might end up using free frame a little bit more as well. Does mean that then I have to go in and get into using the app to export a bit more. It's an extra step. But yeah, maybe not necessarily a bad thing. Iced tea all year round, all the time from iAngel. Fair enough. I understand. And yeah, we do get kind of like attached to brands as well. If they do the thing that we want and they do it really, really well, then why would we switch? Particularly if we value simplicity in our lives, and we don't really feel like we're missing out because if we're honest, most of the browns, most of the brands are producing very similar cameras these days. I'm getting an update from the living room saying that my oldest daughter is saying lemon or peach passion fruit year round. That's what she would be into. So there we go, live and direct from our living room. Um, all right. So, what are the sorts of things that you are into and what you're looking forward to in 2025? I've already talked about the DJI Osmo 360, which I think is going to be really interesting. I am also interested in the Insta360 X5 and the timing of that coming out because they will be keeping a close eye, I am sure, on what is going on with DJI and their possible entry into this market. And it'll be interesting to see how those mics that they've released recently, the Mic 2 and the DJI Mic Mini, integrate with that. Because I do think that they have stolen a bit of a march on Insta360 in terms of how they use their audio expertise in order to improve the experience. I do think that the X5, the X4 audio is good. I have wondered with Insta360 about whether they should be getting more into the audio game. And I think that they have in their own way in terms of improving audio algorithms and using AI in order to be able to do that. And I think that they're doing an okay job on that, of improving that audio quality. Actually, sometimes I'm quite surprised. I know that many people have commented on my Go 3, Go 3S videos saying, hey, how did you get the audio so good? And I'm like, I'm just using the audios, the on-built, onboard mics, the inbuilt mics on those cameras. They seem to do like a really excellent job. Ace Pro 2, I haven't put through its paces as much. I'm looking forward to doing that. But one of the things also that both DJI and Insta360 do, to be fair, is put out firmware updates. And I think probably it's more. And I do think that they do try to bring new features to their older generation products to try to kind of keep them refreshed as well. Bring as many new features to those as possible, where and when they can, and where the hardware allows. But obviously, there's kind of like marketing involved in that as well, in that they might get those updates a little bit later because they kind of want people to buy the newer product if they want it early. And you can see from their point of view that that makes a lot of sense. All right. So, what am I looking forward to in 2025 myself and on this channel? Because we're coming up to about an hour, so I just want to kind of like tell you more about that. I think that my next year is really going to be about sharing as much knowledge with you as possible on this channel and possibly elsewhere. I'll come to that sometime in January, but yeah, could be a bit of a surprise coming for people who like my kind of and my style of content. I will tell you more about that when I can, hopefully in January. But yeah, sharing in terms of, well, in terms of how I share, you may have noticed that I'm starting to share vertical videos more on my channel in YouTube, and that's going to continue. I've had a conversation with many people. I stopped doing shorts because they were kind of cannibalizing my long form video views. But I have it on good authority from many kind of like bigger creators who have direct relationships with, in that it is possible, it is highly likely now that YouTube have sorted that out, and that the YouTube feed is kind of like uh, directly separate, but also contributing. You can put a related video in the description box in your YouTube Shorts that relates to a long form video that you have. So I'm experimenting with that for the next couple of months and seeing how that's going. So far, it seems to be going reasonably well. I'm definitely hitting a ceiling on YouTube Shorts. Here's another place where I think AI is completely overrated in terms of producing short clips from longer clips. I may end up using it still just because I have a backlog of long form videos that I would like to produce shorts for. Going forward, I manually myself as I make videos, but in order to clear that backlog, I think I will employ AI to help me do that. So it'll be interesting. I'm going to group those videos and see how they perform against each other. The ones that I do myself and the ones that AI clip out from my backlog of long form videos. When I say backlog, I mean like over the last like six to 7 months or so, stuff that's kind of still current. So yeah, that's where I'm going in terms of sharing my knowledge, sharing my kind of like style, but also sharing my content across different formats, not necessarily different platforms. If I can find a low, easy way of doing that through so like Canva, auto scheduling on my Instagram feed, on my Facebook feed, on my Threads feed, then yeah, I don't really do TikTok. It'll be interesting to see what the Supreme Court decision is around TikTok. I do think that there's going to be a big influx of people watching Instagram in the US for shorts. I do think, here's my guess, is that the TikTok ban is going to go ahead in the US from a national security point of view. So it's going to be interesting. I could be completely wrong, but I think that this area is like very much in flux at the moment. Oh, got a few comments coming through. Whoa, Trevor, thank you so much. That's a super chat there from Trevor. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Let's have a look. He's got a video. Is it possible to create a 360 time-lapse video in VR? That is a really good question. Yes, you can. And the Insta360 X4 can do that. It can do a time-lapse in, I think it's 11K, and you can export that out as a VR video using the Insta360 Studio software. I might think about doing a video specifically leading people through that because I do think that that's something that people are wondering. You know, can you just set this up, have it record for like 10 minutes for a sunset or a little bit longer, and then put that out as a VR video as a time lapse? Yes, you can. And the only thing is that if you want to export that in the highest quality, it's only going to work as a not export it, but view it as a long form video. Certainly on YouTube Shorts, when you're viewing it, I think it's limited to 1080p. So even if you had that exported in the highest video possible, you won't be able to view it in the highest video quality possible. So yeah, long form landscape videos, yes, you can do it. And thank you so much for that super chat. Really, really appreciate it. Still got that goal happening now if people are into it. Next up, that's awesome. Thank you, Trevor. Blown away. I think that's the highest super chat I've ever had on this channel. So I really, really appreciate that. What you would like to see is a Go 4 with external mic connection and a SIM card slot in the case. Yeah, I've been arguing for a SIM card slot in the case for ages with Insta360. I said, look, you should just be able to kind of offload this. You should have the Go 3 reader built in to the Go 4 case. I think there's a space issue that they're worried about, and I also think that they wanted to make it backwards compatible with the Go 3. And I think that that's why they haven't done it. Now, that doesn't mean that the Go 4 can't be both. They could make it backwards compatible with the Go Reader and also have that 360, the SD card slot built in. I think that would be really cool. External mic connection, I think, will be a harder ask. I think that they don't want to cannibalize their own sales for something like the Ace Pro 2. Bluetooth, though? I think that they could possibly do a Bluetooth connection. I would like them to do a Bluetooth mic connection. I would like Insta360 to bring out their own range of mics, though. That's what I would like Insta360 to do. I would like them to bring out their own Insta360 audio system with their own mics so that they can use the X4 or the X5, the Ace Pro 2, and the Go series of cameras, all with one mic, the same mic, all connecting within an Insta360 audio system like the DJI Osmo audio system. If they were smart, they would be doing that, because you could just, they would have a completely different range, and they don't even necessarily have to upgrade it that often. They can have different size mics, and it would just be easy. And it would work across all their cameras. I tell you, I think it would be great. I think they would sell their portfolio of cameras, because people would be like, I want a 360 camera and I want an action camera. I'll get them both because I can use the same mic with both. Definitely. I think it's a no-brainer. Yeah. Yo, you did mean a Bluetooth connection. Yep, sure. That's where we go. Yeah, and I do. I think that they're missing a trick. I think they've been missing a trick for ages. I think they do need an Insta360 mic. Contact them, tell them, say, yay, I've got a DJI mic too. Wouldn't this be great if this was an Insta360 one that I could use and get really excellent audio quality with my Insta360 X4 without having to hook up those dongle things on the side of the camera, which I can't be asked to do a lot of the time, and compromises the waterproof ability of the camera, because you've kind of then got that slot open to the elements, and you don't really want to kind of have your mic exposed to that, your mic receiver exposed to rain either. If they had an Insta360 audio mic, which they could connect without a receiver and get excellent video quality, imagine what that would do for the camera. Yes, rain is a pain for 360 camera lenses, but also, for the Ace Pro 2 as well, because once you connect an external mic, it just does become unwieldy and unwaterproof as well. 3-minute shorts, yes and no. I watched a really interesting kind of little experiment that vidIQ did with 3-minute shorts, and they were running them alongside just in the transition period when YouTube were transitioning into 3-minute shorts. But there was a small period of time where 3-minute shorts were being watched as if they were long form videos, and they had all sorts of different ads to be shown against those videos, compared to if it's just a short, you only have one type of ad and you're sharing that across several different creators, right? And so they found out that there was, get this, a 99% drop in video ad revenue when you had a 3-minute short in vertical compared to when it was being watched as a landscape normal video. That's huge. So my question would be, why would you make a 3-minute YouTube short when you could make that video as a landscape video and potentially make, if it takes off, like so much more ad revenue by having it as a landscape video? It just makes no sense to me, a 3-minute short video. Why? I really don't understand it when you can make that as a landscape video. So yeah, I don't know. Like I'm curious about YouTube's thinking about this, where they're going with that, because I am not going to be doing 3 minutes, 3 minute shorts. I will be doing up to, I think up to 60-minute shorts, maybe slightly over 60 minutes. Sorry, 60-second shorts, maybe slightly over. It definitely won't be 3 minute shorts coming from me. But however, having said that, I may do the odd vertical live, because I think vertical lives are just kind of like in the moment. Hey, I'm here, and they are for my community. They are not for trying to get ad revenue. So they are literally, hey, I'm in this really cool, interesting place. I could send you some photos on my community page, or I could just do it live now if I could get a connection, and then do a quick vertical live. So yeah, I think you might see a few more of those from me, particularly if I'm in interesting places. Like I'm going to be going out to like this kind of like beach area, second week in January, in New Zealand, not far from me. I don't know if I don't know if the cell phone connection is going to be good enough for it, but certainly when I'm in Japan, I'll be doing vertical lives from there. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. Uh, Yeah, I guess you're talking about the kind of the difference between the 3 minute vertical and 3 minute landscape. Yeah, it's like, why would you do it? If as a creator, I just don't understand what they're trying to do. I mean, it may be that some people just want to create and just put stuff out there, and they need 3 minutes to tell their story. Yeah, I can understand that, but I would say just put some sidebars on it, and make and it'll be watched as a landscape video instead, and you'll make far more ad revenue out of it. That for me is would be the sensible thing to do. Let's just take a look at the comments and the banner. Turn this one on again. We have been talking about our review of 2024. If you have any nominations, let me know what your thoughts are about what's worked for you, what hasn't worked for you this year. In terms of tech, we've talked about AI, we've talked about the X4, we've talked about the problems with the Ace Pro 2, we've talked about having AI built into PCs and how I think that's. We've talked about the Apple Vision Pro and how I think that's been a massive flop for Apple, but how I think 360 VR videos are actually underrated, and I think that they're growing. The one that I put out has had a few hundred views that I did just before Christmas here on the Wellington waterfront. The ones I did in Christchurch and Queenstown have had tens of thousands of views. They're crazy. I mean, like people kind of watch for various amount of times, but I think one of them's had like 25,000 views and the other one's had like 36,000 views or something now, which is pretty big for my channel. That's like quite a lot. Um, I tell you what has overtaken and become the most watched video on my channel, which I find like quite intriguing, quite curious. Um, and that's been my video reviewing selfie sticks that you can use with the Insta360 X series cameras. That has done now over 100,000 views, well over 100,000 views, and it has just been steadily growing all year. Really, really interesting. And I will probably redo that video because there's been a few more selfie sticks that have come out recently, particularly from Insta360, which I will review and remake that video for 2025. So yeah, you can see that in the first quarter of 2025. It's on my list of things to do. So yeah, we will see how that shapes up and when I can get that out. Been going for well over an hour now. This is really cool. We do have a super chat goal challenge going on at the moment. Thank you to Trevor David, who dropped in a $50 super chat asking about 360-degree time-lapse videos in virtual reality. And he actually reminded me, this may happen to you too, is that I'm probably going to make a video about that coming up again in the first quarter of 2025. He dropped me a super chat and I went, hey, that is a great idea. Let's make a video about it. So yeah, thank you so much for the idea. Thank you for the super chat. And this is awesome. Really, really cool. So we're getting to the end of 2024 into 2025. I don't really do resolutions. I don't know if you know this, but my background was like, oh, don't cover up the mic, Sub. My background was as a psychologist, which I was for 35 years. I know that New Year's resolutions don't normally work. So what I do is I kind of do resolutions, but I don't call them that. I call it an intention. So my intention that I kind of like want to be my code word for 2025 is definitely sharing. That doesn't mean I'm just going to be kind of like blindly smattering all my stuff all over the internet and then bombarding you with it as well. No, that's not my intention at all. Sharing with intention means I'm going to be trying to share my knowledge. I'm going to be working with other people to do that. I'll tell you more about that in January as well, but really thinking about the format and how and who it is that I'm trying to share this knowledge that I have and the knowledge that I'm constantly trying to develop with as well. So yeah, I hope that you've been thinking about what your intention is for 2025 as we come out of 2024. But tell me a little bit more about kind of like what you've liked about the tech world in 2024. I've loved how Insta360 have brought out these 3 cameras. I've loved the DJI Mic Mini. I've loved how DJI have developed this kind of like Osmo audio system. And here's another product that I actually have loved in 2024, way more than I thought I was going to, and that is the Neo. The DJI Neo has been fantastic. I really love it. I just don't have enough good weather kind of windows to actually use it as much as I would like to here in New Zealand, but it will be coming away with me for a week up the coast in that second week in January. So yeah, that's going to be fantastic. Yeah, really have enjoyed that. But I haven't tried. What I haven't tried is any of the Hover Air drone products. That, again, more autonomous drones, which I think is actually going to be a bigger thing in 2025. I think people have really enjoyed having like a lighter footprint, easier to use, like no-brainer drone. I don't have to think about how am I going to learn or get a pilot's license. This thing just auto follows me, and I just want it for social media, and I just want to chuck it in my hiking bag just in case. And I don't want to be delaying myself or my friends with like deploying a drone and the aerials and getting satellites and all the rest of it. I just want this thing to follow me for a little while, or just fly a little circle around me and get the scenery too. I think it's hit a really nice little niche in the market and people have really appreciated it. And I think a few other people are kind of going to get into that as well. I really do. Walking and cycling tours. Hi from Singapore. Hi to you as well. Love that you're here this morning. What time is it there? Must be pretty early, right? What is it? 6 in the morning? Something like that. And what's the weather doing? Is it like hot and sweaty like it normally is in Singapore? Let me know what's going on over there. Angel, yeah, New Year's resolutions suck. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't like New Year's resolutions. I like intentions, but I try to like intentions, just kind of small ones, maybe at the beginning of months, weeks, maybe even days sometimes. I'm like, yesterday didn't go so well. Here's my intention. Here's how I want to start the day. This is the mindset I want to approach this day with. Certainly, like, with and stuff like that, often I find myself having to do a little bit of a reset and say, hey, this is how I want to, this is the part of myself that I want to bring to like my interactions today. Yeah, so that, yeah, do that all the time. MacBook Air 3s are great. Hey, I love them. I changed, actually, that's one of the things I did do in 2024. I had a Mac Mini for a while when my 27-inch iMac crashed and burned at the end of 2023. And then I decided I actually want to be a bit more mobile. Like having the iPad Pro is great, but there are certain things that I can't do on the iPad Pro, which I really want the Mac for, such as processing 360 video. I can't do that on iPad Pro, time lapse or otherwise. And I wanted to do that with me when I was traveling as well. And the only way around that was to go back to a Mac again. But having a Mac attached to an external screen, an M3 Mac, has been fantastic. I wouldn't go back now. I really, really enjoyed having this this workstation now. I really do. I like it. It's fantastic. So yeah, I'm not sure how you use yours, iAngel, but yeah, I actually don't use it around the house that much. It tends to stay in this kind of like spare room office. But when I do leave the house to actually travel, yeah, that's when it comes out with me. Oh my god. Sorry, hang on a second. It's what? It's 4 a.m.? 4 a.m. Have you got a tour that you're leading or something today? Why are you up at 4 a.m.? I'm grateful that you're here with me and you're waking up with me this morning and it's raining. Okay. Yeah, rainy. Yeah, I can understand that. It's pretty grey and rainy out here. I think the temperature will be quite different though. It's like I don't know what moment. It's probably about 18, 17, 18 degrees, something like that, centigrade. Um, for those of you in old money, Fahrenheit, if you're watching from the States right now, what's that? Maybe 65, something like that. I grew up in the UK, and at that time, everyone was still using Fahrenheit. So I kind of my brain works in both. But at the lower ones, below sort of like 32 Fahrenheit, which is like zero, which is about, maybe gets to about -5 in London. My Fahrenheit brain doesn't go below that. So yeah, below sort of like -5, I have to look it up. I don't really understand Fahrenheit below that below that setting. Um, Back to the Go 3S, the Go 3S, and I'm loving my Nikon Z50 Mark II, even if everyone hates on Nikon. Does everyone hate on Nikon? I know a lot of people do. I've kind of lost track of the big camera brands, to be honest. I do like the mirrorless Fujifilm series. Interesting, yeah. I was talking to another creator, and they were talking about DSLRs and did I feel like capable of kind of like talking about DSLRs? And I was like, no, no, I haven't had a DSLR since about 2005. I had a Canon, one of the EOS series. It was called something else in the US, some kind of like weird catchy name, and it was just like a bunch of numbers and letters in the UK. Yeah, so I haven't had a DSLR for a long time, but I think that the Z50 Mark II is a mirrorless. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Um, okay. A Hover Air X1 Pro for your travels in 2025. Aren't they insanely expensive? That's my only concern about that. Not concerned, but that's certainly stopping me from buying one and just even to try out. But partly because I just don't have the opportunity to use them. Hey, Hover Air, if you're watching this by any chance, if you'd like to send me one, then I will take a specific trip to somewhere in New Zealand to use one. I'm going to Christchurch and Queenstown in the near future. I will be flying my other drone there. If you want to send me one to test out, please do. But yeah, they look really, really cool, but they also look really, really expensive. I know someone who had and now has again an X1 Pro that did a flyaway. And apparently it took them a little while and a little bit of kind of like toing and froing with customer support, even though they had the right cover, in order to get a replacement sent out to them. So yeah, that's interesting. Just because it's expensive doesn't mean it's not going to fly away. And I know lots of people with the Neo have said that they've had flyaways as well. I do have the DJI Fly cover for mine. I just need to get the most out of it so that I can actually fly it, so that it has the opportunity to fly away. And not that I want it to. Like, to please don't fly away, DJI. Yeah, they do cost a lot. That's why you're still in the thinking stage. Yeah, and I have no idea. Like, what the drone flying regulations are in Singapore. I'm definitely not taking my drone with me when I go to Japan at the end of February, uh, just because it's so onerous to fly a drone in Japan. Not just as a foreigner either. I think even if you were living in Japan, I think it's hard these days to fly a drone. You have to get very specific permissions, I think, to do that. And have ID and all registered and all the rest of it. And with the language difference, it can be difficult websites to do it as well sometimes, I think. So yeah, I'm not convinced that I'm going to be doing that. So yeah, I'm curious about what's it like doing that in. I have no idea about the drone regulations and how easy or hard that would be. Do, 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 do. Yeah, we've got a few people online. Where are you? Say hi in the comments, and I'll bring you up on screen for sure. And what's the weather doing outside? And I'm running out of coffee, so if anybody can like order me one and send it through to Wellington in New Zealand, I'd really appreciate that. Or you could just drop a super chat and I'll get one later. How's that? Yeah, I had one from Trevor earlier on, which is like fantastic. $50 super chat, which is like really cool. And he dropped me a video idea as well, asking me a question. And I said, yes, you can. And maybe I should make a video and show you and everybody else how to do it too. All right. So here we go. Trevor, where are you, Trevor? It's 24 degrees and very humid where you are. So I'm guessing I mean, that could be nighttime in some places. Absolutely, definitely could be. So yeah, I'm just wondering where you are. Let me know. It'd be very interesting to know. You will be bringing your drone along with you to regular travel in Malaysia by coaches and by trains. That's how you usually travel. Fantastic. Coaches and I love train travel. I actually have traveled by coach in Thailand, definitely. I've traveled by coach in Vietnam. In Malaysia, public bus, actually. The only places, no, hang on. In Kuala Lumpur, it was mainly by transit, so like trains, like public transit, like local trains, like underground subway sort of like thing. And then taxi to the airport, which is horrific. I remember being like really worried about being able to make the airport in time. I think the traffic in Kuala Lumpur is some of the worst I've ever encountered anywhere in my life. I don't know if anybody else has been there, but it's frighteningly bad. Can't get anywhere anytime. That was my experience anyway. And I was in Borneo in Sabah as well. I don't know if you go there much in your tours. But yeah, coaches and public bus when I was there. Where have I traveled by train? I think I did travel by train once in Thailand, getting from the north of the country down south. Yes, I think I've done that. I'd have to think back. I did. There was a phase in my life where I went to Thailand 3 times in not very far apart. You know, I did the whole Koh Phangan full moon party, the whole thing, and I went to a few other places as well. So yeah, I've travelled in Thailand quite a lot. But yeah, coaches and trains. I think it's the only way to travel in countries like this because see you get to see the world rather than just overflying it, which is kind of like yeah, sometimes you need to do it, but I try not to do that these days. Partly for environmental reasons, but partly because you get a very different travel experience when you are actually in contact with the ground. I think coaches can be a pain sometimes, particularly when they've got like some kind of movie blaring on the volume is so high that it's kind of like distorting the speaker and you are really close to it and your earplugs are doing nothing in order to be able to kind of like deal with that. That's not great. So yeah, that's a real pain. But yeah, I do like being in contact with the ground. So that's really interesting. Yeah, land travels are fantastic. And unfortunately, in New Zealand, everything is a long, skinny country. There's a lot of mountains. It's kind of hard to get to places. We don't have the same sort of thing that we have in in Japan, where you have again a long, skinny, mountainous country, but you have a fantastic, brilliant rail network that covers like everything, which is just amazing. And that's really I love. It was funny. We were watching this like documentary last night on TV from NHK Japan, which is their English language channel, which you can get like around the world. It's kind of like BBC, but for the Japanese, if you or PBS sort of thing. And we were watching this thing where this kind of like single carriage train, and the community were kind of like trying to prepare these kind of like gardens that people will kind of come and look at and spend time in because they wanted to save this train service because it's so important to the community. And it was this single carriage, really cute little yellow train. And people stopped work and just down tools and waved at the train as it went past. And I was like, I would be hard pushed to find any other country in the world that has such a relationship with trains. as Japan does with it. And I love it. I love the country for that. And I love taking the trains and using the trains when I'm in Japan. It's fantastic. Trevor, this is like very generous. This is like fantastic of you. Here's another $20 from Trevor here. Hey man, I really appreciate it. That's really, really cool. And it is South Queensland, Australia, 620. Hey, we're going to be heading to the Gold Coast. It's going to be my first time in Australia for. I was trying to work out with my wife. It's over 5 years. I haven't been to Australia. Certainly, the other side of the pandemic for sure. Yeah, we're going to be visiting relatives in the Gold Coast, and that's going to be like July sometime, I think. So yeah, that's going to be awesome to be able to go. So South Queensland, Australia, 6:20 a.m. is 24 degrees and very humid. And I know that my relatives in Gold Coast get up really early to do stuff in the morning. So they go to bed really early as well, but they get up really early to go and do running and stuff like that because that's the only time where the temperature and the conditions kind of are like even doing anything like that is possible at all. Cheers, Trevor. Really, really appreciate it. Yeah, traffic is pretty bad in Kuala Lumpur. Man, I tell you, it was awful. Really, really bad. Like I say, it's the worst, some of the worst traffic I've ever encountered in my life. And really kind of like undisciplined traffic as well, if you know what I mean. It's just like everything's piling into everything else. Like, was New Delhi what? No, I don't think New Delhi was worse. New Delhi was like terrifying because of all the different types of traffic. Hanoi was bad as well, but that's all, again, it's all scooters and you just cannot find a way through if you want to try and cross the road. Apparently, Ho Chi Minh City is even worse, really, really bad. You can be stuck there for like ages trying to cross the road. But Kuala Lumpur was just like just trying to get from one place to another place. I just couldn't see how people would do it because there were all like these kind of bus rides or like cars, everybody in cars just trying to get from A to B. And it was just snarled up and no one was moving and no one was doing anything about it. It was just horrible. You even try from Malaysia to southern Thailand as well. Yeah. We'll try venturing to Bangkok by train from Kuala Lumpur next year. Yeah, I did that. I think I did it on a, again, my memory's a bit hazy about this. Did I do it by night train or not? I don't think I did. I think I did it in the day train because I wanted to see it. And I know lots of people do the night train to save time, and I've done that before in the past when I've been Eurorailing, interrailing in Europe. When I was like 20, how old was I when I did that? Maybe I was 20 when I did that. Yeah, that was fantastic. Really, really good experience. So you take overnight trains there to get and save time and also, you know, save accommodation as well. I think I was doing it on like something like £10 a day. I think that was my challenge. I think I was unemployed at the time and I'd saved up a bit of money from jobs that I had done earlier that summer. It was like, and then that had to last me to get to those. I think it was 28 days that I was interrailing. Yeah, and you still can get those interrail passes, but I don't think they're quite as generous now. I think they cost a bit more, and I don't think the network is quite as big as it used to be. Speaking of train networks, yeah, the train network in Japan is amazing, but almost as expensive as in Switzerland. Yes, yes, true. I mean, I guess most of my train travel I have done in Japan um, was on the JR Pass, so the Japan Rail Pass, and that has gone up a lot in price. Some of the regional passes are still really good value if you shop around, if you look on the JR Pass website, but the national passes have definitely gone up in price a lot in the last year. Um, so point to point travel is probably most value. If you avoid the fastest Nozumi bullet trains, it's still pretty reasonable, I think. But the real kind of like hidden secret in Japan is that there are lots of private rail networks as well. So these are not the JR rail networks, but also there are some kind of local little networks. And certainly in Tokyo, what I have discovered is that they do their own little passes as well. So it might be like a 2-day, 3-day pass where it includes or gives you discounts on a lot of the kind of like things that you can see and do in that area as well. And often the model there is that the region's tourism board will get together and try to construct an offer to get people to come and visit on those private rail networks. And they're extensive and they're really, really good. Just because it's not JR rail doesn't mean it's not good. And that's one of the things that, again, I love is the diversity that you can. It's not cheap, but the value that it delivers, I think, is second to none. I think it's fantastic. Mind you, I have been on some amazingly beautiful train rides in Switzerland as well. I remember this thing from Lucerne to Interlaken in Switzerland back in 1991, I think it was. Yeah, and that was amazing, and I deliberately took it. I'd done the research, back back in the day where I was using the Thomson kind of like timetable, which is like this, paperback thick book of like all the train times, trying to like navigate it yourself before smartphones. And yeah, it was a fantastic train ride with this kind of like really a lot of glass in this carriage, so you could see sort of like right from the top right down to the bottom. It was a fantastic ride. And similarly in Japan, you can do slow trains as well, where you can be almost like right next to the driver, looking out at the front on this single line train track going across all of these rice fields with mountains on either side of you or mountains in the distance. It is an incredibly beautiful experience if you give yourself the time to get out in Japan of the main sort of like tourist routes. And that would be my biggest advice of people kind of like going to Japan is, yeah, sure, do the tourist stuff. If you go back on the second or the third time, which you might because it's pretty addictive and there's so much stuff to do that you can't get to see it all in one go and see the smaller stuff and the smaller towns because there is an amazing amount to do, even if you're just kind of hanging out. What I'm going to do this time is like, eat a little bit more in the conbinis and the small stores and just kind of like hang out and catch up with some friends back in Japan as well. I'm really looking forward to that trip at the end of February. All right, where are we? We are like almost an hour and a half into this. Still got the super chat challenge going on here down at the bottom. You'll see that. We are approaching the end of the time that I'm going to spend here today. So yeah, any more here. We have also been talking about the review of 2024. What's gone well for you this year? What tech have you liked this year? And what are the sorts of things that you are not going to do? One of the things I haven't talked about is I did upgrade my phone this year. And I was in two minds about it. I almost did it last year. I didn't, but I do. And I'm a big lover of the iPhone 13 mini. I did love that phone. But it was starting to get a little bit tight in terms of battery. And that was the biggest thing for me. So I did upgrade it and I did get the iPhone 16 Pro. When I got the last time I bought a Pro, I tried upgrading from my 13 mini to the 14 Pro. I hated it. I really didn't like it. It felt out of balance, out of whack. It just felt like it was going to fall out of my hand. It felt like kind of top heavy. Whereas this 16 Pro, let's get over here. This 16 Pro doesn't. It feels really nicely balanced. It doesn't feel like it's going to fall out of my hand when I'm using it. Yes, it's slightly bigger in terms of the screen. Yes, it's slightly heavier, but it's still very, very usable. I have really, really enjoyed using this phone. So I do not regret it. It has been an expensive upgrade. Don't get me wrong. They are these days, but that's probably going to last me 3 years now. And I do like the fact that, Apple do support these sites for, 5 to 6 years now in terms of security and software updates. What I don't like is that, again, here's an overrated of 2024. Apple Intelligence. What a crock. That's been absolutely useless as far as I can tell. Yeah, I haven't probably spent as much time as I should have done on the last kind of iteration of releases, but it has been just really underwhelming. Yeah, there probably will be a bunch of stuff released kind of like first quarter in 2025, but I do think that they will have hacked off quite a lot of their loyal base having sold the iPhone 16 Pro, saying that this is going to be the first phone with Apple Intelligence. Yes, it will, but by the time you actually unroll it all out, it's going to be not long till the Apple 17 comes out. Apple iPhone 17. So yeah, it's just 17. No, sorry, the Apple. Yeah, 17. I'm losing track. Yeah, so I do feel like that's been missold. I didn't buy it for Apple Intelligence, though. Let me get that right. But there will be a few people who will be a bit like, what are you talking about? This Apple Intelligence? Because it seems, I try kind of like putting Siri requests and it asks me, do I want to run this through ChatGPT? And I do, and I get nonsense back. And the weird thing is like, then if I ask them a question about that ChatGPT query response that I've just got back, it says it can't do it. So what's the point? The whole point of like having ChatGPT is that you're supposed to be able to have a conversation with it, not just a single output. So I just think it's useless. Why would I use this rather than using ChatGPT or some other LLM model directly? Because I can't see any reason and in any way why this is better, apart from that it's in the Apple ecosystem. And I think that they're overrating hugely the amount that people will be captured by the Apple ecosystem and not go outside it, just because they've got something called Apple Intelligence within their ecosystem. Because I do think it's been next to useless. I don't know what you think about it. You've been using Apple Intelligence? Did you buy a phone or a device because it will use Apple Intelligence? Because if you did, I'm wondering if you feel the same as I do in that it's next to useless. Hey, thank you so much, Angel. I really have appreciated your support in the live streams and on the channel over the last wee while. It's been really, really meaningful to me. So thank you so much. That's been great. Really, really appreciate that. Yeah, we do have a live stream challenge going on with Super Chat Challenge. I think I've got 3 out of the 5 that I was hoping to get today. So there's a little bit of time just to kind of like come in if you do fancy putting in a Super Chat here. If you do have any video ideas or videos that you've seen of mine that you think, hey, I've got a question about it, or a camera or anything that you're thinking about buying for 2025, your creation journey. One of the things, again, that I was going to be talking about today, it's probably going to be I think I'm going to be working on in 2025 is my channel is all about, recording your life using pocket cameras, but also there's another bit in my tagline, which I probably haven't talked about so much, and that's also sharing. So I really want to be intentionally working on that with you over the next few weeks and months. Is I want to help you to get the best out of the footage that you captured. So what we might be talking about here is a little bit more on the editing side of things and the sharing side of things. So you got this footage, you've used this camera, it's fantastic. Now you want to share this stuff with the rest of the world, your friends, family, or maybe you want to join on this creation journey. Maybe you're thinking about, how do I create wealth for myself? In terms of being able to provide a living, or maybe it's just kind of like a side hobby and it's a side hustle. You want to be able to kind of like make a little bit of money to, fund a holiday or whatever it is that you want to do. So I will probably be looking at helping people with that kind of like editing journey and that sharing journey, and thinking about, well, how do you use the gear in order to maybe make the money back on it and then buy better gear, but also share what it is that you've created with the world in ways that bring them pleasure and bring you pleasure as well, because it's fun to share your stuff, right? So yeah. Oh, so great. I'm glad that this is resonating with you, Angel. Videos on camera accessories and editing would be great. Yeah, so I am thinking about kind of like beginner level, even just like helping people to select packages. So hey, there's DaVinci Resolve, there's Adobe Extra, there's Final Cut Pro, there's CapCut, there's LumaFusion. What are the pros and cons of each one? What can you do with each one? And, where is it that you should start maybe? So yeah, just helping people make those kind of like choices. Yeah. And helping people to just kind of like start to navigate that journey, and then maybe diving a little bit deeper into each of those packages as we go through. And yeah, how to deal with Yeah, negative comments and how to get monetized. One of the things that I've kind of set up, but just on that topic now, is dealing with negative comments. One of the things that I have been thinking about is how to help creators thrive. I have this 35 years of experience as a psychologist, and I don't necessarily want to dwell on these negative sides of things, but how do you deal with it, right? It's because it's reality. But then also, how do you thrive? In this situation where you are trying to kind of like do it, it can feel like a hamster wheel. It can feel like you're just serving an algorithm. How do you make this more about you rather than you serving like a big kind of like cog, and you just feel like you're being crushed every day by this big cog, this big AI cog, or this big tech company that's kind of like using your content and putting it out there? So how do you make this more about you? So how do you get monetized, but also how do you stay motivated? Because sometimes it's not motivation that gets you through, right? Sometimes it's actually discipline, or sometimes it's momentum. It's doing it day after day and getting pleasure out of it, so that it means that this is actually a cool thing and you really, really want to carry on doing it. And that for me has been a real game changer for me in terms of thinking about momentum and what is the pleasure that I get out of doing this, and how do I continue to get pleasure doing this? Because it's only really the pleasure that's going to keep you going. So for me, um, I have been talking about and thinking about negative comments. And this is why I try to, as much as I can, keep up with comments, particularly people who are saying nice stuff. Even if they've just like saying, hey, I really enjoyed that video, it's really useful, thank you. Or they've got a question about a video. I will engage with that as much as I can, even if it's to say thanks, or give them a thumbs up and say a thank you, or to briefly respond to their comment, or point them towards a video, not even necessarily on my channel, that might help them with their problem. Right? That's what I'm trying to do. With the negative comments, what I try to do is to set out a very clear frame in terms of terms of engagement with my comments. And it says that if people are the first time that they've been on my channel, they're going to leave a comment. It says, hey, negative stuff won't be tolerated. I will just kick you off and I'll block you. Right? Because what I don't want to do is to give a ton of attention and get into like some kind of like flame war with somebody who's leaving a negative comment. And then all the people who are saying nice stuff get no attention from me and get no acknowledgement from me. That's not what I want, right? I want to reward and really encourage a positive place to be for the negative comments. And this is not about free speech, because this is not a free speech area. This is my channel, right? So I get to say, if you want to go and talk about stuff like that annoys you, or you want to go and hate on someone, go to somewhere else. Like, you're not going to do that here. This is a positive community. And what I want to do is to really set that up for people to feel safe and to just have like positive interactions here. So I would encourage people to really not give attention to kind of like, all the trolls and all the negative comments, and really focus your attention on positivity. That's not to say that they may not have a valid point. And if they have a valid point and they can express that in a way that kind of like isn't like derogatory or just like having a go for the sake of it, then fine, we can have a conversation about that. But it's going to be fairly limited, and I'm fairly clear on that and how I do it anyway. That's for me, but maybe I should make a video about that too. Making and editing travel videos would be great. Yeah, I mean, I did that for a while, and I probably will continue to do that every now and again. Certainly when I'm in Japan, I might even be sticking to shorts for that when I'm there. I can see them being sort of like minute and a half shorts, maybe 1 or 2 a day, and then maybe a slightly longer video. If you look at my kind of like video that I did on 30,000 Days to Live, they might be more that style of a travel video rather than a kind of like, hey, there's a long sequence of events that happen in a day. So yeah, there's various different approaches that you can take to travel videos. But yeah, if I could give an example of that, maybe as a travel video and an editing one, maybe I'll do that. That's a good idea as well. Thank you for that. Yeah, so we have this super chat challenge on at the moment. If you have been here, if you've enjoyed this live stream today, I would really appreciate that. If you join in that challenge, I think I've got 3 now, 2 more to go. I will probably be here for about another 5 minutes or so. This live stream platform actually runs out after 2 hours. So we're an hour and 40 into this, which is a lot longer than I thought I was going to go this morning, which is fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for being here today. Look, I've got 0 coffee left as well. So yeah, I do need to get more. I probably won't get an iced tea today, Angel. I don't mind an iced tea every now and again, but it's not my drink of choice. I actually drink like kind of like regular tea. Um, One of the things I have changed to quite a lot in 2024, which I really enjoyed. Okay, personal stuff here, right? Firstly, decaf coffee and decaf tea has been really good. I don't drink that all the time, but mixing that up during the day has meant that my sleep has been much better this year than it has been. But the other thing that I've really worked on this year, I had a few health scares in the middle of this year. And I don't know, I'm certainly noticing it as I look at myself in the camera now. I've lost about 10 kilograms this year, since about the middle of the year. It's kind of plateaued here a little bit now. But I've not been taking Ozempic or Wegovy or Mounjaro or any of those GLP-1 drugs. No, this has all been on eating a higher protein, lower carb diet. Not like crazy low carbs. It's not like ketogenic. I've only been cutting carbs down. And I've been walking a lot. But nothing kind of like crazy. Like the longest walks have been like an hour and 20 minutes, something like that, but trying to get out for regular 40-minute to 60-minute walks, not even necessarily up in the hills or anything like that. It's just being on the flat, on the coast, just walking regularly and trying to get that done fairly early in the day so that I feel like I've got that under my belt already. And I've done quite a lot of thinking when I'm out there as well. And what this is kind of like accumulated too is it's probably only been the last sort of like 4 months, probably from the beginning of September I started this. And I've lost 10 kilograms since then. And I feel so much better for it. I tell you, it's been quite an incredible little journey. And a few people have been curious, and they've asked me how did I do it. And I think that the subtext has been GLP-1, Wegovy, Ozempic, Mounjaro, those sorts of like drugs. And I've nothing against people using those if they need to use those. For me, I have a slight issue in terms of I don't know, and there is no data upon what the long-term impacts on that are. They're also expensive. I've heard that in the UK, this is a bit of a wild west as well, is that people are kind of like getting these on private prescriptions, and there's not really a lot of regulation or monitoring around what's going on here. And I know that there's like a big argument brewing in the incoming Trump administration with kind of like Kennedy, the health czar, saying we should just be eating healthy, and Elon Musk saying, everybody should be just on, these GLP-1 drugs. Everyone should be on them because it will save so much in terms of long-term healthcare costs in the US, like things like diabetes and obesity. I can understand both points of view. Personally, I'm a little bit kind of like skeptical or a little bit wary because we don't have any long-term data on this. But that's just me. But what I'm looking forward to is to continuing that kind of like health journey for me this year. I'm continuing on that kind of like high protein, low carb approach until I get to at least Japan at the end of February. I'll probably be eating a little bit more carbs when I'm in Japan, if I'm honest, and I'll just prepare for that, right? I'll just because there's rice with everything if you want it to be, and I do enjoy those kind of like rice-based dishes when I am in Japan. So I probably will be walking a lot though as well. I'll be doing kind of like minimum 20,000 steps a day when I'm in Japan. If you have enjoyed those Japan vlogs, do let me know in the comments because I'm kind of like I'm umming and ahhing about it. I did have a very interesting experience where we're going through my youngest daughter's artwork, and she was saying on one piece of artwork, and then in a book that she'd been writing, she's only recently learned how to write, was that she wanted to sit in a forest in Japan and listen to the rain. And I got a lump in my throat when I read that and heard that. And then I was like, she was sat next to me at the time, and I was like, so where did this come from, darling? And she said, because I watched your video and this is what you were doing in Japan. And I was like, oh, okay. So my vlogs have an impact on you as well, like my little one. Like that was incredible for me. And so I kind of like don't want to not do them, but I'm also kind of like trying to find a place for them in my life as well. So yeah, that was quite an incredible thing around the power of vlogs, just kind of reaching the people who you care about, like in your life as well. Yeah. All right, a couple of things here. Let's see. Angel, let's talking about those medications. Yeah, the GLP-1 inhibitors. sorry, not inhibitors, enhancers. Are they? They are a problem in Switzerland as well, and the people who really need them can't find them. Yeah, that is an issue. Is because there is this kind of massive demand for them now in terms of using them for their weight loss. Um, Properties is that those people who need to use them for things like managing diabetes can't get hold of them. So yeah, there is a real bottleneck, I think, at the moment, and because the scope of use of these drugs has increased so much. I mean, it's a really great technological development, but I do think we'll start to see generation two, generation three of these drugs coming through as well. And I haven't read the story yet, but I did see some kind of like New York Times article headline saying that the junk food manufacturers are now finding ways to fight back against these companies who are basically eating their profits, and these all this money is being diverted into pharmaceuticals, whereas they were being spent on big company kind of junk food manufacturing. So yeah, it's going to be really pans out over the next wee while, but unfortunately the people who may lose out are those people who really, really need to use these drugs for health reasons, not those people who want to lose weight for cosmetic reasons. They don't really have a weight problem from a health point of view, but they do want to lose a bit of weight and they want to do this quickly. But also the long-term dependence that it creates as well. We don't know enough about what happens to people. Like, does the weight just rebound back? It seems like it does for many people. And so are they then on these drugs long term? In which case, what are the financial implications on that? Yeah, it's a really tricky one. I'd be interested to see how that pans out in 2025 as well, because it's an interesting technological development. Do you think making shorts will help grow your YouTube channel? Possibly, right? What I have looked at, I've only just started making shorts again recently. If I look at the stats, I have maybe, excuse me, 3 to 5% of people on my channel who watch shorts and nothing else. So yeah, that's interesting, right? And there's a few people there who are watching shorts and who are watching my long form videos as well. But I don't know about how much people are watching my long form videos because they've discovered my channel through shorts. But certainly it is reaching a different audience. Whether they stick around and watch other stuff, it's too early to tell. But that's certainly my intention, is that I do want to be able to try and share my videos in what is essentially a different platform, a separate platform within YouTube, but they're kind of like they've figured out how to link them a bit better now. And I'm hoping that figuring out by YouTube at the back end continues to develop. And I'm taking a gamble, having talked to other creators who also stopped making shorts for a while. And they are now saying that they are making shorts again now, but they're being very strategic about them and trying to link them to the long form video that they have. So yeah, that is certainly my intention, is that I hope that this will help grow my channel as well. Yeah, hope that answers that question. And Angel, and the funny thing about back to the GLP-1 drugs, if you do stop and keep eating junk food, you'll gain weight again instantly. Yeah, you will, right? It's not just going to kind of like negate all the bad stuff that you do. I'm not sure about how it affects appetite if you stop taking them. Does it just rebound instantly back to where it was? And what I'm finding is that as I lose weight, right, this is really interesting. As I lose weight, firstly, the amount of food that I need now goes down, right? So I actually have to scale back the number of calories that I eat during the day because there's less of me to feed. Okay, so that's something that I've not quite got a grip on yet. So I do need to start eating even less than I was since the beginning of September when I've been trying this, because it is a little bit about kind of like calories input as well as the output, but much more driven by calories input. You can't really lose weight by exercise very effectively. The old saying of you can't outrun a bad diet, I'm finding to be very true. But also on the energy expenditure side of things is that because there's less of me as mass moving, then it takes less energy to move me through space. So I'm actually burning less energy when I'm going on walks because I weigh less. I weigh less than, more than 10% less than I did when I started this. And so all of those, I need less proportionately less amount of food, and I'm also burning less energy. So I need to walk longer or walk more intensely in order to burn the same amount of calories I did as when I was heavier. So yeah, it's an interesting little kind of like dynamic that all these variables are affecting each other, which means that I have to really take those into account when I'm thinking about how much, what, and when I'm eating. Yeah, it's really interesting. Oh, that's really interesting that you work for a health insurance company and you see the rebounds daily. Wow, that's so. Yeah, you will have some really incredibly interesting insights there. I wonder what you think about what I just said in terms of like really having to stay on top of that dynamic of like energy input and energy expenditure, because that changes as you lose weight. And I think that maybe those people who have been taking the GLP-1 drugs haven't had the lived experience of that, because it's kind of like being artificially done. They haven't had to be thinking more intentionally about, so okay, so what does this mean now in terms of like how I scale up and scale down my exercise according to what my actual current body mass is. It's interesting. I don't know how much coaching they get along with taking these drugs. I think some places they do. I think the NHS is trying to design a coaching program around these Monjaro kind of like drugs as well. I'm not sure if you take a private prescription, if you get any of that. Yeah. You do intermittent fasting to control your weight. Yeah, I've tried that in the past and it has been successful up to a certain point. Excuse me. But the research that I've read is that intermittent fasting versus just eating regularly, same amount of calories doesn't really make that much difference. It just means that you limit your calories because you've got a limited amount of time in which you can actually eat. So yeah, that's where I think that intermittent fasting makes the difference, because you have a limited time window, and so you just stick all your eating in there, and you end up eating enough for you to have a net calorie deficit, and you lose weight. I'm getting a cough. I need a glass of water, and we are approaching the 2-hour mark. So I'm going to call it a halt there. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you, Angel. Thank you, Trevor, for the super chats. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. This has been a cool thing to finish the year for me. I really, really wanted to get this live stream in at the end of this year. Expect to hear from me again sometime in January, probably from the middle of January onwards at some point. Then I will get a live stream scheduled. I'll try and do it a couple of days beforehand so you see it come up in your feeds. Thank you so much. Happy New Year, everyone. Wishing you all the best for 2025. Be intentional, get out there and make 2025 yours. Love you all. Catch you. See you now.